Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
kind of hit everything yesterday with everybody. Being able to go back and watch the film, I thought it verified a lot of that stuff. So I'll go ahead and I'll let you guys go ahead with questions.
First up, JJ.
Matt, when you went back and looked at everything yesterday and, talked with Coach Laser, were you okay with David only getting 11 carries?
Yeah, well, I mean, you see the first run of the game, it's a big run. And then, I thought that in a perfect world, you'd love for him to get a few more. But, we're scoring 36 points and just the way it went. I think probably, JJ, when you look back at the fourth quarter, there's a couple times there where whether it's, him and CP, where you're handing the ball off, we were trying to stay a little bit aggressive. But for the most part, I think probably 15 to 20 is a really good number for David, and for different reasons. I thought we were moving the ball other ways as well, and that's just kind of how the way it went. But I thought David played really hard and played really well, and the line blocked well.
Dan Wiederer.
Matt, I was curious your assessment of the 2-minute drive just before halftime, and obviously a drive where you guys overcame a sack, overcame a penalty early, and just being able to get that exclamation point on the half, how you felt about that entire drive.
Yeah, that was big, Dan. I think for us, we've been pretty with the 2-minute, end to half, end to game scenarios. And really for us, we knew we had the football. And then on top of that, we also knew that we were going to get the ball in the third quarter. Now, we all know the struggles we've had in the third quarter, but we knew we were getting the ball to start the third. So let's try to turn this into 2 scores. We ended up doing that. It would have been great to get a touchdown on the first drive of the third quarter. I thought that the fellows kept their composure at the end of that deal there. We had one timeout in our pocket, so we knew the run was open as well if we needed to run it. We had a plan. I thought everybody, coaches included, players, substitution-wise, were pretty good. I thought Mitch made really good decisions. And to be able to get out of there with that touchdown, again, just like we started the game with a touchdown, and in that half with a touchdown, I think was pivotal.
Colleen Kane.
Hey, Matt, when you look at this streak that Cairo Santos has been on, what have you noticed about the way he's operated that has allowed him to be so steady?
Probably just the consistency of, he's always been very calm, cool, and collected. That goes for all the years he's been playing in this league. I think now that he's able to kind of get used to the wind and just kind of the temperature of our home games here at Soldier Field, and then these other games when we're on the road, he's done a really good job. And I think, the other part of it too is with Scalesy and with Patio. They're the other part of this deal, and then with the guys blocking up front. But really, ultimately, when it comes down, I mean, we have a lot of confidence in Cairo that these kicks are going to go through, and he's made some big ones this year, and we just want to keep that going. He's in a good place right now, so we're just trying to continue that.
Mark Potash.
Hey, Matt, excuse me. With the current offensive dynamic, do you feel like you've kind of found the key that has unlocked Mitch's potential and got him out of whatever, the inconsistency factor? I guess just how real is what we're seeing these last few games from Mitch?
It's a good question. Here's what I would say. I think it's real. And I say that because I'll kind of go back to when everything went down the first 3 weeks. And there was times where we were even then moving the ball really well, and we were just struggling a little bit in the red zone. We were struggling a little bit on third down. And as you all know, we've changed some things, right, schematically as to this offense and what it was even 2 years ago in 2018 to try to work around the strengths of our players. And when we made the move to Nick, again, at that point in time, it's really hard to accept for Mitchell, but I do believe that for a lot of different reasons, that's going to end up really helping him out in his career. And what it's done is it's enabled him to take a step back and see where we're at. And now these last 3 games, we're feeling an identity within this offense, and he's a big part of that. You know, he's able to, you see some of the stuff we're doing with the nakeds and the movements, and he's changing his arm angles. He's making good decisions where he's looking downfield, and if it's not there, he's getting the ball down to the backs and the tight ends, and they're making plays. It's hard to defend when you do that, when you get the run game going. We did early on, and then, you know, towards the end there, we when they knew we had to run the ball, that's where I thought they stopped us a couple times. But that's okay. Our guys are still working through that. But I've mentioned the identity part the last couple of weeks, and we feel that way, and the guys are playing with confidence. And I do believe it's real for Mitchell right now, and I like where he's at, and he's just kind of staying in his own lane, and he's just being a leader and making plays, and that's what's important.
Pat Finley.
Matt, when you looked at the film, what do you think of the blocking by your receivers, both on the David run and on the little screen for a touchdown?
Yeah, I loved it, Pat. I thought that really on the David run, A-Rob's running the whole way down the field, just getting in the guy's way, it was enough. And it just keeps a guy from having that angle to make the tackle. And then we had one of those plays last year where Anthony Miller caught the bubble screen and other guys blocked for him. And now for those guys, for Anthony to throw at that guy and cut the guy down, for A-Rob to maintain his block and sustain it, and then for Mooney to stay in bounds, to show that effort and not try to reach the ball across. So many times you see when you go to reach the ball across the goal line and it pops out and it's a touchback. So we need more of those, and those guys have been phenomenal. I mean, you go back to last week's game on David's touchdown run. It was the first touchdown run of the game. Mooney went in there and had a great block that kind of stretched David to the outside. So these guys right now are blocking their tails off. That's a huge part of where we're at, along with the offensive linemen. And those are the kind of things that when you throw a pass sideways, sometimes it might be covered, but when the players make it work because they're trusting their fundamentals and technique, that's what you see happens.
Kevin Fishbane.
Matt, on the defensive side of the ball, what's it been like for you to watch Bilal's progress over his few years here with you?
Well, so Bilal is really he's really coming on strong right now, and he's learning from guys like Hakeem Hicks and these guys on the D line. That Bilal is he's very detail oriented. This year he's becoming opportunistic. We were talking about it this morning with the staff. He's making plays when he has to. And he's doing a good job of creating pressure in the pass game and then doing whatever he needs to do in the run game. So his arrow is definitely up right now. I love his motor. I love his care for the game, his passion, and he's helping us out big time.
Jason Leisure.
Can I ask two?
Yep.
Go ahead, Jason.
Can you first question is, can you tell us the latest on Jalen Johnson?
Say that again.
Jalen Johnson. Can you tell us the latest on Jalen Johnson?
Yeah, so Jalen has his shoulder that Andre and them are still going through. We'll have to keep an eye on it and see where he's at. I think it occurred on the hit that he made on Deshaun down there at the 1 yard line. So he went in there and made a big stop and ended up helping us and keeping him out of the end zone. But he's a tough kid, and we got to just stay on him, make sure we keep him healthy here, and hopefully have him ready for this coming week.
My second question is, it's been a turbulent 2 years here for you. Where are you at right now after dealing with a lot of the depths of a losing streak and us hounding you all the time about play calling and about your job? And now you have 3 games left and you do have a chance to earn your way into the playoffs.
I think that's the number one thing, is that for us is understanding that the 3 years that we've been doing this thing together, we've been through a lot. We've been calloused in different ways. And yesterday for me, for our coaches and for our players, was very important in the fact that regardless of who we're playing, when we're playing, or why we're playing, our guys came out and they played with a ton of energy and passion. And this was the first time this season really that we put the 3 phases together, which was great. Now, all that said, you start out hot, you go 5-1, then you lose 6 in a row. And so 2 totally different streaks. And now here we are in a position, which is what we talked about this past week of, hey, we're now in a position to where we need to do whatever we can to give ourselves an opportunity to get into the playoffs, however we do that. And so that's what we're focused on right now. And I think all the coaches, all the players that have been here during those times have understood the hard work we put into this. And so here's where we're at. And now we got a big game this week versus Minnesota, and we control it.
Couple more for Coach Jeff Dickerson.
Hey, Matt, can I take it back to Mitch for just a second? I know you said a couple times that you think this is real. What does that mean? And I only ask that because, when you look at this from afar and you see kind of what's happened the last year, the fifth-year option gets declined. You replace him with Nick in week 3. It would kind of seem like maybe things are headed in a certain direction. But now he's come back in, he's played well, and if you really are believing what you're seeing, what does that mean, like, for him? Maybe not with the Bears long term, but just for his career as a starter in this league.
Well, it goes to show, number one, the resiliency that he has. You guys know I've referenced Alex Smith several times, and Alex went through a hell of a stretch at the beginning start of his career. And you all know where he's at now and what he's done and what he did in Kansas City. That his whole time there is he won a lot of games, but he went through a lot of rough patches during that time. And so every player in this league has their own story, and we don't know where Mitch's story is going to end up. But all we can do right now is focus on where he's at right now at this moment. And when you talk about a kid who has been through a lot, putting it out there. I mean, he's been through a lot in 3 years, 4 years. For him to be able to get to where he's at right now, the way he's doing it, that's a credit to him. I mean, you can't take that away from him. So what he's trying to do right now is be the greatest quarterback he can be for the Chicago Bears, be the greatest leader he can be for the Chicago Bears, be the greatest teammate he can be for the Chicago Bears. And the last 3 games, his performance individually has been pretty good. There's been a couple plays here or there that he would tell you he wants back, that we would all say that. But right now, I think yesterday goes to show, you just look at that first half, what he was doing and some of the throws that he was making on his own. And I like to say, when things are gray and they're not always perfect, can you make plays? And he's doing that right now. And these guys are collectively on offense, they have a good confidence right now of scoring points and getting first downs. We're staying out of a lot of third downs. And so the other part of this that's really good for Mitch's sake, and I don't know if you've all have felt it or not, I know I have, is that, whether it's a crushing loss against the Packers or whether it's a crushing loss against Detroit when you have a 10-point lead, the way we lost, or whether it's a really convincing, fun win against the Houston Texans, he stayed in his lane this whole entire time. He's never too high. He's never too low. That's the part that I like about him. And so right now he's in a good place, and we just want to keep things going. There's an open communication throughout all of us. And I think offensively, if you guys were down on that sideline yesterday, you would feel as our team collectively, all 3 phases, people were in good places.
Adam Hogue.
Matt, was that touchdown right before halftime an example of Mitch kind of just making a play? Because I know Allen said after the game that it was against a look they hadn't seen in practice. And I also noticed rewatching it that the linebacker dropped back.
Yeah, it was totally, Adam. It was we have some things that go on in that play. And some of it is the players making plays when you get down there. I mean, you guys go back and look at the red zone +5 in the NFL and see how many times guys are wide open. And I think we talk about it all the time. It's broken plays sometimes that end up scoring. And that wasn't necessarily a broken play, but that was 2 guys on the same page. And when you have your quarterback and your wide receiver on the same page, sometimes it's hard to stop. And that was a great example of, you never know how they're going to defend that particular play. And they showed us a look that we haven't seen. And so those guys just made a play. But the beauty was, there was a timeout right before that where there was a break, and we were going through some suggestions on what we wanted to do. And the conviction that Mitchell had to me when I was down there on the field with him of let's get to that play and we'll just make it work. He said, I'll just make it work. I mean, how awesome is that? And then when he does it, that's a beautiful thing. So that was pretty cool to end a half like that. And again, that does nothing but just keep his confidence going.
Thanks, Coach. We're all set.
Okay, y'all take care.
During the course of the season, and guys got to keep themselves ready. I give Chris a lot of credit tonight, playing the last 6, 7, 8 minutes and keeping himself ready and sitting over there for 2 hours, then going out and coming in the game and being professional and doing a really good job. And I give him a lot of credit for staying engaged, but we're going to need all of our players to do that, because you may not know what happens from day to day.
And can you update us on Sato, Cornette, or Dotson?
No, just at what's out there right now.
Thank you.
It's just excused absence.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cody, go ahead. You got the next one.
Hey, Billy, I know we're still kind of learning on this COVID stuff and the protocol, and understand you can't say everything, but like, what time of day did you figure out like Sato wouldn't be able to play, and like how flexible are you guys going to have to be when you learn things like key rotation guys can't play?
It's really, really hard for me to go into anything regarding that. Obviously we found out on, the day of the game. It was probably while we were at the arena, when a lot of that stuff happens. But, that's going to happen sometimes, just in the environment that we're in. And I think you have to be prepared for anything. And, like I said, we obviously, it's a preseason game, would have liked to have played maybe a few more players tonight. But I give, all the guys credit, that got in there, that maybe, really played different kind of minutes the first night against Houston. So we've got to stay flexible. We got to be able to absorb and handle anything that gets thrown at us, because there's going to be disruption. And when there's just disruption, what you have to have is you have to have guys, I think, that are engaged. And these guys have done a really, really good job. And, it's going to be a crazy time and a crazy season, with all that I think we're all dealing with right now. And, from game to game, day to day, your team is going to change. And guys could be in different roles. Guys may have to learn a different position. I mean, it's going to be hard. There may not be a whole lot of continuity, but you just got to try to do the best you can.
All right. Shell Ristout, you've got the next one. Go ahead.
Thank you. Billy, you do get a win tonight, and I know it's preseason, but what did you like about the ball movement tonight?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think one is we physically competed a lot better. I mean, we got really, really hurt the first game against Houston on drives on the 3-point line. We did not play, I didn't think, with any level of force and physicality. And I think our guys came and did that. The turnovers in the first half for us, I mean, we had a 31 or 30-point first quarter, and we turned it over 7 times. Now, we did a better job in the second half of taking care of the basketball, but I think starting off with, I thought we competed at a higher level than we did. Now, we did not shoot the ball particularly well. I thought we did a nice job moving the ball. We did not make baskets. I could tell, like, certain points in junctions of the game where they were kind of like, they couldn't make a shot. They were getting frustrated, started to kind of, lose energy. And, when guys are making shots, it always energizes you. I've always felt like when you're not making shots, can you actually handle that kind of adversity and be able to, overcome that and still do the things that you can control? So I liked what we did on offense. I liked how we played. I've got to really, I think this is all new for Wendell. And I think if you look at his last 2 games, just his shooting numbers, this is new for him. And it's probably more on me than it is on him, because I do have a lot of confidence in him. And I do think there's a lot of things that he can do, but it's going to be, a learning process for him. And he's got to figure out, where and when. I thought he bypassed some threes tonight that he could have taken. There was some opportunities around the front of the rim he didn't quite, make, but I think that he'll be able to kind of come into his own. Lowry didn't really shoot it particularly well, but I thought he did a lot of other good things for us. So I liked what we did on offense. We just didn't shoot the ball particularly well.
Billy, the next one comes from Jamal Collier. Go ahead, Jamal.
Yeah, I had a point just on that on Wendell. Just what do you think that even seeing one go in for him, then he seemed like he kind of threw his hands up in relief. What do you think that can do for him?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You can tell that like a lot of that I just sense for him is, Wendell's a winning player. He has got a lot of really high qualities. And obviously I'm getting to know these guys, but when you talk to them about competition in the game and you hear things that they talk about, especially Wendell, winning is very important to him. So I think when he's not performing and he's not playing well, he takes that very, very serious. And I think for him last game, I think he probably was a little bit frustrated, with himself. I mean, but that's more of the competitiveness of him. And then I think he missed his first several shots, and then he kind of made one out of the corner. But we have to fight through that. We're not a team that's going to offense is not going to come easy for us all the time. What we've got to do is focus and concentrate on the things that we can control. Ball movement and generating good shots. If we generate good shots, we got to live with the result, but it can't drain us on the other end of the floor. We still have got to play with energy. We still have to compete. But as long as we're generating good shots, then I think that, we've got to be able to live with the results. And I think for Wendell, he's going to have to learn that because he's missed in 2 games here, a lot of shots. He's missed a lot of shots. But it's okay. He's taking the right ones and he's doing the right things. As he gets more and more comfortable, he's going to get better. But it's going to be a process for him. But I've got a lot of confidence and belief in him. But he just can't. We need him defensively, so we can't have his offense drain him or our team defensively.
Billy, our next question here comes from Christos with Sports DNA out of Greece. Christos, go ahead, please.
Hello, Coach.
Hello.
I would like to ask you, do you feel that tonight's game was one step forward, one step to the right direction for your team? And also, how satisfied you were from Patrick's performance?
Well, I mean, I think we competed a lot better. We spent a lot of time the last day or so talking about, competing and playing with a level of force and a thrust better than we did the first night against Houston. I think we did that tonight. I think now we've got to really look at the tactical part of the schematic part of what we did. We left our feet on shot fakes. I think it was a great game for Patrick guarding Eric Gordon because he's such a crafty offensive player. He got caught in the air a few times. He fouled him on a 3-point shot. He short closed out one time because he thought he was going to pump fake. Those are the things he's going to have to go through in terms of learning. I think we took a step in the right direction, but I think there's a lot for us to clean up. And I felt like the biggest thing we tried to clean up last game was just us competing at a higher and more physical level than we did. And I thought we did that today, but I think there's a lot of execution things that we can clean up on both ends of the floor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rob Schaefer's got the next one. Go ahead, Rob.
Hey, Billy. Seemed like Kobe settled in a little earlier tonight. Obviously, you left him in a little bit longer than the rest of the starters. How would you assess his performance tonight, especially compared to game 1?
I thought he played a really, really good first half, and he didn't really take a lot of shots. I thought he played a really good floor game. I think sometimes guys, it's not just Kobe, it's any player. Kobe has always been his entire life a great scorer, but when you're playing the point guard position, I think I said before the game, he's got to figure out that balance. And I thought he had a great balance in the first half. And there's going to be some games where, he may have to live with, 8 or 10 shots. And everybody, like Zach had 20 in the first half. Like as a point guard, you have to realize, okay, this guy's got it going a little bit and some good things are happening. And Lowry got some good looks. Wendell got some good looks. Yes, they didn't make them, but I thought he balanced himself and the rest of the team really, really well in the first half. I thought in that third quarter, it got away from us a little bit as a team offensively. I thought we had a lot of wasted possessions. I talked to Kobe a little bit about, that's part of his growth and maturation is when he sees that is to kind of like, make sure that we're getting something good. And I thought we had some periods there, both in the first half and in the second half, where we had what I would call just wasted possession, bad shot or a turnover or multiple turnovers together. You got to kind of course correct pretty quickly. But I thought he really bounced back. I think he also, like Wendell, maybe was disappointed with the way he played the other night. And he's a competitive guy, as I've said. And I thought he came back and really competed and played a really good floor game and a really well-balanced game in that first half.
Thanks.
Sam Smith, you're up. Go ahead, Sam.
Bill, you mentioned turnovers, particularly at the starts of those halves. First halves, the other game, first half, and second half today. How much of that is seems like you're trying to get a lot of offense through the forwards? Are you trying to force feed the forwards to be making more plays in what you're doing going forward?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say that we're trying to force feed. We are trying to use Wendell more as a creator and a playmaker to take advantage and utilize his passing. But to me, that's not where our turnovers came over. We had a lot of careless turnovers, and that's going to be something we're gonna, because we struggle at times to score, and we struggle to, we can go through some droughts, and you really create droughts when you turn the ball over. But I think if we're going to pass and move and try to create ball movement and player movement, as these guys try to figure out what we're trying to do, there's probably going to have some games where turning the ball over a little bit too high of a rate. I think we can execute better. I think we can cut a lot better. I think we made harder cuts today than we did the other night. But we're going to have to be a better passing team. Like, we turned the ball over on the break. We turned the ball over on outlet passes. Like, to me, that's not really running the offense through any of the front court guys. We have turnovers away from that. Now, to your point, I think in the first game against Houston, our forwards, to your point, got the ball slapped out of their hands a lot. And we had probably 5 turnovers that DeMarcus Cousins caused. I didn't think we had that tonight. I just thought we had a lot of carelessness that we have to clean up. We can't have lapses and droughts offensively for long stretches, especially where they're self-induced.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Billy, it looks like we got one last question here. It comes from Joe Cowie. Joe, go ahead.
Billy, are you concerned about Lowry so far?
In terms of him banging knees or what he's playing?
Just his shooting and just kind of making sure that he doesn't get caught up in what he did last year, kind of doubting himself at times, it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting being with these guys, and I'm trying to learn them. They're trying to learn me. It's not like we've been together a very long time, but like I could sense, I thought Larry actually did a really good job, today, because he did not shoot the ball well. He had some really, really good looks. But I felt like emotionally he was really engaged in the game, and that's what he's got to do. I thought there was moments in time. I think Patrick Williams went through that a little bit tonight. He had a stretch there. He turned it over and couldn't make a shot, missed some layups, fouls, and you could see it just taking the air out of him. And, he bounced back and really played well to close the fourth quarter. I think Lowry, I felt like, really responded in terms of not shooting the ball particularly well, but stayed engaged. I said this to them in a timeout. I said, how many of you guys have actually tried to miss a shot tonight? Like, intentionally tried? And they looked at me like I was like, what are you talking about? And my point is, you don't have any control over it. You don't. Like, focus on what you can control. And every guy, Larry wants to make every shot, so does Wendell, but it can't take away from other things that you can do to impact the game. So I didn't think that Lowry at all tonight. I thought he stayed the course pretty well. Listen, these guys are highly competitive. They're professional guys. They want to play well. They want to do well. So when they're not performing and making shots, because I think a lot of guys, they look at whether or not they're playing well by missing or making shots. And I think there's a lot of things that they can do to impact the game that necessarily has nothing to do with scoring.
Okay. Thanks, Coach. We're all good here. And that concludes availability. So,
Clarkism, Motivational Monday by the creative thought scientist. Negative people attract other negative people. You will find when you begin to achieve success, more success will follow. This is a law. Success attracts success, and failure attracts failure because of the law of harmonious attraction. You attract what you are. You attract what you are in harmony with. Harmony. Go get it. I'm your guy, D. Clark, motivated and blessed. Soak it up. I am.
Relax. Reset. Rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
I want to take this time to say thank you so very much for watching the Rewind Sports 60 channel. All sports, all day, encore presentation, and much, much more. Thank you so very much for your continuous support. Continue to watch, continue to support. Stay safe, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great rest of your day, and may God bless you. Now, back to the Rewind Sports 60 channel. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Sports Medicine Update, a weekly podcast with yours truly, Jerry Riles, and the Honorable Dr. Chad Padromas. Doc, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jerry. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic for the most part. Have some ailments here and there. The left knee is acting up a little bit, but I'm pleased to say I had an opportunity to get the master to touch me, and I'm basically healed. So thank you, Doc.
My pleasure. My privilege.
Maybe a little bit more work, but thank you so very much. But other than that, doing fantastic. Doc, let's jump right into it. The world of sports obviously has been affected by the pandemic and COVID-19. We've seen it all across the board for the National Hockey League, the NBA, Major League Baseball. Congratulations, for those sports to get their championship titles and the teams crowned for sure. But of course, we're looking forward to starting another season as far as the NBA is concerned. The National Football League, they're doing very well, I guess, as far as plowing through this season. But albeit there are cases of COVID striking its ugly head on numerous teams around the league, and even hit our own Chicago Bears this past week, where a practice player contracted the virus, and they had to shut the facilities down, NFL protocol, and they had to shut Hallis Hall down for about a day or half a day to make sure everyone was safe and sound. But COVID is here, and the numbers have certainly ramped up. It's also hit the collegiate level as well. I understand there's somewhere between 460 to 487 college basketball games that have already been canceled. We know the number of games that have been canceled in collegiate levels as far as the colleges are concerned, and the Ohio State Buckeyes to play their rival, the dreaded team up north, the Michigan Wolverines. That game was called off for the first time in over 100 years because of Wolverines program, and they have been hit hard with the COVID-19 as well. What's your latest assessment as far as this virus, and what's the newest on the news front?
Well, several things. As to your first point about people getting the disease, you had asked me periodically when we discussed this what I thought was going to happen, and what I've said consistently is that that people are going to test positive and games are going to need to be postponed, but that the ultimate answer was just to keep on going and cancel where you have to cancel, but keep going and things will work out. And they have, and they will. And the reason is that at the end of the day, these athletes are healthy people, and happily, outside of the unfortunate gentleman I mentioned in Division II some time ago, who was kind of heavy, who unfortunately succumbed some time ago. Basically, people have gotten sick or gotten infected, but happily, we're talking about the inconvenience of canceling games, not the tragedy of, horrible consequences from the virus. And in fact, when we've heard reports like that, they basically turned out to not be valid, as with the earlier report from the Penn State doctor about heart issues, which turned out to really not be severe. So basically, the bottom line is these young, healthy people get infected and they get over it, and life goes on. And again, in accordance with the principles of the Great Barrington Declaration, the the more young people that get it and recover spontaneously, the better it is for society, because they dampen down the spread of the virus. So again, happily, there have been postponements. And I saw, the Big Ten changing the regulations on the fly, as they should. So they had said you needed 6 games. Now they said you only need 5 games. But at the end of the day, the leagues are continuing, and that will continue. So I think all these leagues are doing a great job. And I think the good news on that front is that we're going to be talking about inconveniences of rescheduling, not medical tragedies, which happily has been the case so far. The story that was interesting was out of, I think it's the Baltimore Ravens, where they had several people, I think 4 people test positive. And so when they did genomic sequencing and looked at you're actually able to tell for a given virus or a given bacteria of a particular species or type, that there's different strains. Strain isn't the right word, but different types of it. And so by doing this and tracing who had which one, they were able to find that, in fact, the virus and the people that were infected apparently did not get it from on-field transmission. There was, as I understand it, transmission from an unnamed team personnel, and I don't know if this is confirmed or not. At least one report said that it might be their strength coach. I'm not certain that that's true, but the main message is that it wasn't from on-field play, which of course had been a concern. The thought is, well, these people are in close proximity and they're breathing on each other, and is this going to be this horrible transmission issue? And this advanced biochemical work on these different strains of the virus that people got have shown that that hasn't happened. That's great news, because it furthers the thought that people continuing to play is not turning out to be a big source of transmission.
So, you bring up a good point there. And again, we talked about how the National Football League, they continue to try to stay on top of everything and continue to try to get these games in. But we know that there have been teams, as you mentioned, the Baltimore Ravens, that have been hit with it. But back to the collegiate ranks real quick, Doc. Mike Krzyzewski, the basketball season has just started, and teams are playing in their respective regions of the state and the country. We know here locally, DePaul has yet to play a collegiate basketball this season due to the virus. But Coach Mike Krzyzewski, after Duke lost to the University of Illinois this past week, made post-game comments about the severity of this virus and the lack of, so to speak, and I'm not putting words in his mouth, so I'm paraphrasing, but the lack of concern as far as the student athlete is concerned. And he put, he pointed the finger at the NCAA and said, it appears as if they're more interested in the bottom line, the end line, and of course that's money and revenue generated, as opposed to the journey and the processes that these student athletes have to go through. And he felt that at this point, with the numbers going up, that maybe play should stop until you get a handle on it and then resume. Did you get an opportunity to hear those comments? And if so, what are your response to that? What's your response to that?
I didn't hear and I didn't see, but as you're describing them, I don't think I would agree. You've probably read the reports about suicides, people talking about suicides directly attributable to depression from this. So the basic point, my alma mater, Princeton, I think has not always been at the top of their game on this in some areas, but they did something recently that I think is the right idea, relates to what you're saying, which is they've decided to have in-person classes in the spring, but they're making sort of their own bubble. And I can't tell you everything, but the idea is that the students will be there and the students will go to class, but I think they can't leave campus and one thing and another. So the basic point really hasn't changed, which is that the tragedies are almost exclusively in high-risk people. Indeed, in low-risk people like these college athletes, the risk is as low as, and in some cases lower than, the flu. And we don't close down basketball seasons because of the flu. So the issue is really pretty simple. You get these young people to get on with their lives because the emotional and psychological and other toll on them for disruption is huge. And it's kind of fortunate that the people that are, maybe most affected by this, these young people by disruption, are the people that have the least to lose by carrying on. So they should carry on. And I don't know, maybe the NCAA is doing what I think is the right thing for the wrong reasons. Unfortunately, and this is spoken like an old cynic, follow the money. And it's just true far too often. So, maybe they're doing things for monetary reasons, but the net effect of keeping playing is absolutely the right thing. And where the action needs to be focused is how do you protect high-risk people? So let the kids play, encourage them to play, keep them playing, but protect high-risk people from them and vaccinate those high-risk people. The vaccine is very controversial, but, medicine is risk-benefit analysis. And so should you be vaccinating kids? In my opinion, no. But should you be vaccinating old high-risk people? I think definitely yes, because they're the ones that have things to lose. So vaccinate older people, keep the older people away from the kids, let the kids play, keep the elderly, overweight, comorbid, activity manager or whoever else away from them, but let them play, encourage them to play. It's good on a number of fronts. And if the NCAA is doing it because of the money, I think you could question people's motives, but I think their actions, at least as described, are the right ones.
Well, it's interesting, and I love your response. But there be some out there that says, and probably including Coach Mike Krzyzewski with Duke, that say, okay, if you let these kids continue to play, they're student athletes, sure, but you're restricting them or keeping them away from their families for a matter of 5, 6, 7 months, depending on how things go, because of course they won't be able to go home for Christmas. They weren't able to go home for Thanksgiving to see their families and spend time with their family. They won't be going home obviously for New Year's and the long stretch until they figure out March Madness and the bubble. You talk about the mental state of these student athletes. Just being a college student and a student athlete in college is very, very difficult. Now you put the pandemic on top of it. How do you address those individuals who say, hey, you know what, it's not worth the end line as far as the money is concerned, because we're talking about the welfare of these individuals?
Well, you shouldn't do anything because of the money, but keeping the kids away from their families for the school year, I mean, I don't know. Is that supposed to be a tragedy? I didn't go home. I went away to college. I didn't go home for Thanksgiving when I was in college. It was a price of a plane ticket. And honestly, couldn't afford it. I mean, I guess we could have, but it was expensive. So I stayed in school. I stayed in my dorm. There was nobody else around. I mean, so the heck what? I don't think it's a hardship. I did go home for Christmas, but I don't think it's a hardship at all. And I think, and the other thing, and we bring it up every time we talk about this, but so you take sports away from these kids. So what do you think they're going to do? Lock themselves in a tower in isolation? They are likely to be engage in behavior that's worse. I didn't go home for Thanksgiving. I remember I was in dorms by myself. I was studying. I mean, we just didn't think it was worth the money. I didn't have a car. Could afford a car. I didn't have my own car, so we didn't think it was worth the price of a plane ticket. It was fine, I don't get that argument at all. It's better for them to play, stay at school, do what you're doing. And there were some other kids there, and be with the other kids. So I don't, the disruption of these kids and taking sports away from them is far worse. I think this is not an issue in the slightest.
Dr. Chad for Joelman Sports Medicine Update, our weekly podcast. I have to ask you brought up and mentioned, and there's obviously throughout this pandemic, which really hit the United States back in March, that it's equivalent to the flu. But there are some out there to say, okay, if you want to say that it's a different level of the flu, they said regularly during the flu season, you have between 50,000 people a year that die from the flu, maybe 70,000 depending. But when you talk about COVID and the virus and the amount of people that are dying from that, they're projecting upwards of 459,000 people dying by February. How do you address that comparison?
Well, there's two sides to that. The first thing is you have to look at subgroups. And COVID is benign for young people. So when I said it's no worse than, and in some groups better than the flu, that's for young people. There's no question that it's a bad disorder for old people with comorbidities. And it just makes absolutely no sense to lump the safe subgroup with the unsafe older subgroup. And the flip side of it is the young people, look, there are exceptions to everything, but overwhelmingly young, and they've done a study in Marines and they tested people, and these people they didn't have any symptoms, so these young people are overwhelmingly safe and probably safer than the flu for them. And they should get on with their life. And actually what should happen is you build up herd immunity in the population through them. Great Barrington Declaration, again, signed on by some of the most brilliant epidemiologists, infectious disease people in the world, from Oxford, from Stanford, from Harvard. So let them get sick, because once they're infected, they will contribute to herd immunity. So you get herd immunity from young people from getting the disease. You get herd immunity from older people from getting the vaccine. Now, the other thing is, in the older people, the numbers that you mentioned, there are a lot of deaths, no question, and they're tragic. But there was also no question but that the deaths, even in these populations, are overreported. As everybody knows, medical institutions profit. And I said follow the money. I'm sorry to have to say this, but medical institutions, this is widely known, profit. When they report a COVID death, they make money on it. Goes against their bottom line. So, the people the guy that gets in a car accident and dies with COVID gets reported as from COVID. So the death rates from COVID, there's no question they're high and they're tragic in this older demographic. And there's also no question that they're lower than reported. And it goes beyond that. As you perhaps know, there was scandalous misreporting clearly identified in Florida, where cases where the case rate that was higher than the total number of people tested. So there's no, and something else. So you say, well, people get COVID, right? Well, the COVID rate is not necessarily people that test positive. The COVID rate is also, in many cases, people who are just symptomatic. And I don't want to get wonky, but there's other things too. The test for COVID is a test for viral particles. And this test is set at a level of specificity. And it's parts per, I'm not sure which it is, but it can be 25, 30, 35, 40. Well, it turns out that the sensitivity of the testing in the US is significantly higher than it is in much of Europe. Actually, Florida is the only state in the country where Governor Ron DeSantis, who I think has been a hero through all this, has mandated that the level of sensitivity of the tests be determined, because a lot of the people who are testing positive for COVID are testing positive for pieces of the virus and are not infectious, right? So this death rate, no question, people are dying, high-risk people, and it certainly is tragic. But the number of deaths is inflated. The number of cases is inflated. And again, I mean, I hate to say it, and I've been a health practitioner for, I'm 66. I started medical school at 22, most of my life. But unfortunately, the medical profession, the medical industry is not immune. And, follow the money and look for where people are making money on reporting COVID deaths. Look where people are making medical experts who are making money on their affiliations with vaccine companies. So what I'm saying is the magnitude of the deaths, they're high. They're certainly higher than the flu for older high-risk people, no question. But they're not nearly as high as reported. And so the answer is, it's kind of like geographically treating, rural areas the same as buildings where people are living on top of each other makes no sense. That's why top-down government mandates across states are destructive. They need to be individualized to region. They need to be individualized to population. So let the kids live their lives. Otherwise, you're going to lose more people from suicides, and that's already happening. Protect like crazy the high-risk people.
So I got to ask you this question, Doc, and I appreciate you being elaborate and expressing your thoughts on the virus and its effect on the community and this country. So, but the question I have to ask you, because I'm sure people who are watching or listening to this podcast, the question may come up. So are you saying that the numbers here in the United States are inflated because of financial or profit from institutions? Is that not happening globally as well? Because of the numbers, they seem to reflect what's going on here in the United States as well. So are you just isolating it to the United States of America, or are you saying globally that numbers are being inflated?
I'll tell you an interesting thing. I cannot speak for other countries, but when hospitals get thousands of dollars more, so someone is positive for COVID, but they die from a fall, from a broken hip, something else. It is, let's just say it's widely theorized that, I'm not saying that their care is suffering, and I'm not saying they're doing anything nefarious. They're not. I think everybody is trying to do well by people, right? But the difference between dying with COVID and from COVID, there are many, many instances that have been written about that are clear and obvious where people died with COVID, not from COVID, but were listed as COVID deaths. And is that from the money? Most everybody thinks it is. I don't want to speak to the magnitude. I don't want to speak to other countries, but I'll tell you something else since you bring up other countries that's interesting. So there is a pitched battle being waged now in COVID regarding early treatment. So hydroxychloroquine was advocated early on, and then President Trump advocated it, and it became intensely politicized. And because he advocated it, opponents of President Trump trashed it. And I began my research study when I saw, politics aside, when the FDA came out with their mandate that said, and I've talked about this before on this podcast, that hydroxychloroquine was cardiotoxic, and using it as an outpatient could result in cardiac deaths from arrhythmias. And again, I've been practicing for a long time, and I have many patients who were on this drug for rheumatoid arthritis, for other problems. And this drug has been widely prescribed for decades without an EKG, without problems. And it caused me to start to research it, and then to use the resources of my foundation to research it. And it culminated in a paper that has been published and quoted around the world that showed that there has not been a reported death from cardiac arrhythmia from hydroxychloroquine. So people said that it was unsafe for that reason. It isn't unsafe. It is safe. And this is a systematic review. This was looking at all the studies published. There have been other studies to back that up. We then did a study about efficacy that showed that for outpatients, it was efficacious. So it was trashed wrongly. Now, the tragedy of this is this drug is safe, it's effective, used early, and it's cheap. And there's another drug that has come to the fore called ivermectin. Ivermectin is used for an annoying skin condition called scabies, where little skin mites, they're little bugs, little parasites that get under the skin and they cause itching. And ivermectin is an oral medication that's taken, and it can also be used topically, and there's a related medicine that can be used topically. So studies on this drug have shown that it's effective. Now, let me tell you what's interesting. You're asking me about internationally, right? Well, we in the United States have lots of money, right? So we spend it on remdesivir, $3,200 at least for a course of treatment. And there's evidence that it helps, but I'll tell you, the last big study on it didn't show that it helps. So does it help? Yes. Are the results dramatic? Probably not. Is it expensive? Yes. Can you afford that overseas? By and large, third world countries can't. All right. So we can, and we use it. Ditto convalescent plasma, which I think is worth using. Ditto antibodies, which is worth using. But in poorer third world countries in Asia, they don't have our money. So they use hydroxychloroquine extensively. They've taken to use an ivermectin extensively. Hydroxychloroquine is used with zinc, and they report excellent results. And I'm part of a study group with some of the smartest epidemiologists and virologists and infectious disease people in the world. I go through better than 100 emails a day as part of this group, and they're reporting great results. They don't have our money, so they look at data, and they're getting great results. But we in the U.S., with lots of money and with, money for vaccines, which they don't have, we ignore these simple, inexpensive treatments to our detriment. So, one thing I'd like to mention to people out there, if you get ill, I will tell you that early treatment with hydroxychloroquine and zinc has been shown to be effective. I have 2 published papers in excellent journals that are cited worldwide that my foundation did. These are systematic reviews, not my study, reviews of other literature that clearly show it. And you can Google them and you can find them. So early treatment with hydroxychloroquine and zinc, clearly effective, cheap, will save thousands of lives. Harvey Risch, the brilliant Yale epidemiologist, has been one of the chief proponents, certainly not the only one. Well, I just want to tell people there's another substance, ivermectin, same thing. Now, hydroxychloroquine is uniformly safe even for pregnant women. In fact, it benefits the fetuses of pregnant women. Ivermectin is not approved for pregnant women. But there's a pitched battle in our country. If you get sick and you want hydroxychloroquine, or if you want ivermectin, there are medical jurisdictions where doctors will refuse to prescribe it for no reason. And even hydroxychloroquine, I've heard it said there's a shortage for people with lupus. Well, there's a foundation, the Palmer Foundation in Australia, that bought 32 million doses of this drug. 32 million doses. It's out there. It's cheap. Costs 37 cents a pill in the U.S., 10 cents a pill elsewhere in the world. So that's a bogus argument. So ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. We in the U.S. are kind of too stuck up for these, right? They're cheap. Leave them to the third world countries. They don't have money. But those third world countries in many cases are doing better than we because they don't have our resources, and they are treating early. And early treatment is available here, can be used, should be used.
So, Doc, let me ask you this then. So if you say you have a pre-existing condition, okay, African-American male, living in the inner city, pre-existing condition. So I'm susceptible to, potentially getting this virus and succumbing to it. Would this be a recommendation for me to look into and say, hey, you know what? I want to beat this thing before it gets me. And I go
absolutely positively. And I'll tell you something else. And you mentioned African-American, right? So, Jerry, you're older than you look, but you're not a senior citizen. And, being African American isn't really the relevant characteristic, as you probably know. It's being obese. And unfortunately, the minority community has more obesity. And with obesity comes diabetes and other things. But yeah, without question, that older people with comorbidities should get treated, can get treated. I get people calling me all the time because I've written about this a lot. And they say, my doctor won't prescribe it. And I might have mentioned on this program before, there's at least one system in Chicago, and I guess I won't mention it, which issued a directive prohibiting their doctors from prescribing it. This is nuts. It's a horrible intrusion on medical practice.
So how do you get it?
You find a doctor who will prescribe it.
Okay.
And I have doctor friends who will prescribe it. I don't prescribe it for people because I'm not really in the business of treating respiratory problems. But you find if you are a high-risk person and you test positive early on, absolutely. So hydroxychloroquine with zinc, get an EKG before you start. If you've got a prolonged QT interval, maybe you don't take it or maybe you watch it, but it's completely safe. And you talk to your doctor. Now, unfortunately, the propagandizing against it is so intense that many doctors don't even understand this, and we attempt to educate doctors. There were very interesting Senate hearings run by Ron Johnson just in the last week or two, where some of the champions of early treatment, Harvey Risch from Yale, Jane Orient, a brilliant epidemiologist, Peter McCullough from Baylor, and others, presented the abundant evidence in favor of early treatment. And, and I don't even want to get into it because it disgusts me, but it turned a little partisan. It's terrible. And I don't even want to discuss it. But I will tell you, these hearings have opened people's eyes and people are asking about it. And so the answer is yes. If you are high risk and you get it, you need to get it early though. And you need to get it with zinc. Right? And you should probably get an EKG and be monitored by your doctor. And if your doctor won't prescribe it, you need to find one, my opinion. And this is advice I would give you. I would give my parents have passed, my wife's parents have passed, right? But I would give any relative of mine in that circumstance who was high risk, who got it.
Well, doctor, we can continue to talk with you. You're so full of wealth and knowledge and insight, and it's just captivating, no question about it. And we can go on and on and on. I just want to tell people, hey, remember, just to be safe, the easiest thing you can do right now, in my opinion, is put the mask on, wash your hands, and social distancing. And if you have to stay in place, meaning staying at home, by all means, do it. Stay safe. But if you have to interact, go through the protocol and do the things you're supposed to do. But worst case scenario, there is an option out there for you. Doc, we can go on and on. If people want to get a hold of you to learn more and find out more, how do they get a hold of you?
Our office phone number is 847-699-6810. We have a wonderful staff and are happy to help as many people as we can.
You do certainly have a wonderful staff. I had the opportunity to meet them firsthand, and what a pleasant atmosphere, pleasant group of people. Doc, thank you so very much, and I'm glad I'm in the care of your hands, Doc.
Hey, Jerry, it's my privilege. Thank you.
Dr. Chad Prodromos, Sports Medicine Update, the weekly podcast. Take care of yourself. We'll see you next week, Doc.
Thanks, Jerry. You too.
It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles. WCPT. WCPT.
This the coldest sports show. You were getting the hour from 6 p.m. to 7. Chilling with Lauren Cox and the man Marvelous. Shout out to Mr. Riles and the Italian style. You what sports is the only politic.
WCPT. WCPT. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles.
With Montgomery on 1st and 10, he's running back in a hole, and then he's off with a nice stiff arm, and it's a foot race down the sideline. Jackson in pursuit, Reed in pursuit, he's gone to the house, 80-yard touchdown run. Wow!
And Kevin, we said that they were going to focus on the run. That's what they wanted to do. They've had good balance the last couple of weeks, and David Montgomery was going to get his opportunities. To think he was going to start the game with an 80-yard touchdown run. Outstanding job by the offensive line, creating a lane to get him to that next level, and then nobody could touch him. Watch the gap that he's able to run through. There is no one there as he's got at least a 6-yard gap. Quick little stiff arm there to Reed, and it's off to the races.
Down goal at the 5. Trubisky a perfect 7 of 7. And he goes to the end zone and caught for a touchdown. Jimmy Graham grabs another. His 6th of the season. That's number 6 among tight ends. And Trubisky throws a touchdown pass and a perfect 8 of 8 start against the Texans. It's a 1st and 10, and outside they go. Mooney looking for a block, and he gets one from his other receiver, Robinson, to the pylon. Touchdown! Got it! 12-yard touchdown pass. Trubisky to the rookie Mooney. And the Bears go up 22-7.
Demetrius Harris up top left.
And they got the touchdown. That's caught by Robinson. 3-yard touchdown reception. 3rd touchdown pass in the first half by Trubisky. And a lone fan enjoying it here at Empty Soldier Field.
We finally get an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. We finally get an opportunity to congratulate our Chicago Bears on finally ending that 6-game losing streak and getting a big victory over on the lakefront, shaking the lake. Our Chicago Bears knock off the visiting Houston Texans by a final score of 36-7. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another edition of the Rewind Sports 60, the Bears post game show on WCPT 820 AM in the beautiful, beautiful city of Chicago in the fantastic neighborhood of Jefferson Park. This is another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. I'm Jerry Riles, the fastest hour in sports conversation. Lauren Cox has the night off. She'll be with us next week for sure. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, you love him. He's the one. He's the only. He's not over at Wrigley Field taking in a cup game, doing baseball. He's not over at. They still call it the sale over there? Or is he what's it called? What do they call it? They call it guaranteed rate field. He's not over there, ladies and gentlemen. He wasn't at Soldier Field. He's not over at the United Center where the Bulls are tipping off their 2nd preseason game of this 2020-2021 season. Ladies and gentlemen, he's in studio. WCPT 820. He's the one. He's the only. He's the marvelous one. He's Dan Marver. What's up, Marver?
Hey, how you doing? I haven't been anywhere. The last live sporting event I was at was in March 10th to be exact. So I'm having tremendous withdrawal. Now, last week we were talking about firing the entire
Get him out of here, Marver!
And me, myself included. So I apologize for that. Obviously, they were doing something this week, right? Because the results were unbelievable. I mean, 36-7. Who would have thunk it?
No one would have thunk it. But it's not too hard to believe that the Bears finally ended that 6-game losing streak for the simple fact they played the struggling, the dismal, the dismantled Houston Texans, despite the fact that they had the quarterback that we should have had in Deshaun Watson, and they made mincemeat out of him. But before we go on, Marvelous, I have to say happy Hanukkah to you.
Oh, yeah.
And all our Jewish brothers out and sisters out there. Happy Hanukkah to you. How's it going?
Oh, yeah. You got up to number 4. We're halfway home. 4th night.
Wow.
Just started sundown, yeah.
So did you get gifts every night?
In theory.
That's usually how it works, right?
I mean,
usually in theory.
More for the little kiddies, I think. The adults don't.
So this is day 3.
Yeah, well, 4.
Oh, day 4.
Yeah, it's sundown. So it's halfway home, and then in 2 weeks will be Christmas. So it's unbelievable. It's the season.
So do you get an opportunity to celebrate both or no?
I celebrate anything.
I love that. You're just like me. You're cut from the same cloth. You
That's
celebrate
right.
anything.
I celebrate anything.
Wow,
it's fine.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great.
But it's gift giving for 7 days.
Yeah, in theory.
In theory.
In theory, yeah.
What gifts have you collected?
Socks.
White Sox tickets?
No, this guy. No, socks.
Oh,
for my
socks.
feet.
Socks.
My feet. Yeah.
I actually need some socks.
Okay. Well, if I get some extras, I'll bring them in next week.
Yeah, bring them in.
Yeah.
Bring them in. Marvelous. Folks, welcome. We got a great show on tap for you. Want you to be a part of it. Our number here is 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Of course, we got Bruce Heron, the former Bear linebacker, number 51, joining us shortly to recap this Bears again, knocking off the Houston Texans over at Soldier Field. The final score 36-7. You love Bruce Heron. He's number 51 in your programs. He's number 1 in your heart. He will be certainly joining us. We'll get an opportunity to talk a little basketball. Of course, the Bulls, they're tipping off this in a matter of about an hour or so over at the United Center. And we'll hopefully get a chance. I don't know, Marvelous, did you get an opportunity to see him on Friday night?
I watched some of the games, saw the highlights. I mean, it's just weird in these empty arenas, but and they're going to start the season a week from tomorrow, so it's a real short turnaround.
Yeah, it certainly is, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to talk about that. But we do want to talk some. It's been a very, very rough weekend for the University of Illinois and the alumni base and the family of the Fighting Illini. It's been a very, very hard weekend. They take it on the chin against the Northwestern Wildcats over in Evanston on Saturday, and they lose the what is it called? The Abraham Lincoln hat or something? What's it called? The Battle of Illinois.
Lincoln.
But what's that trophy called?
It's
it's hilarious.
It's Lincoln.
Yeah, but they man, they lose the. They've never, and Lovie Smith, that football team never have beaten Pat Fitzgerald's Northwestern Wildcats, and it wasn't a good performance on Saturday afternoon, of course. And then basketball.
It's Land of Lincoln is what it really is
the
called.
Land of Lincoln Trophy, and congratulations to the Northwestern Wildcats. And then in basketball, they simply came up a little bit short.
Mizzou.
Io, they lose to Mizzou.
Yeah.
And after closing the gap, trailing by 13 points late in the ball game, they closed the gap, and Io, I don't understand what happened. Did you see the ending of that goal?
I saw his 3-point shot off balance, but before that, there was that flagrant foul. It looked like the guy kind of flopped.
Yeah.
That really turned it around.
I just didn't understand
Coburn
the.
Looked like he may have extended his arm a bit, but the guy looked like he'd been shot
out of a cannon or something. Exactly. Yeah, that was kind of questionable in its own right. But coming out of a timeout and the play that was drawn up, that simply didn't make any sense. It was an ill-advised shot put up with like 2.3 seconds left in the game. Of course, it fell short, clanked off the rim, and the Illini didn't get the rebound. They lose it. A tough one to Missouri. So that was tough as far as on the field, on the court is concerned. And then, of course, we get the sad and disappointing news. First and foremost, that Lovie Smith, after 5 years, going 17-39 for the Fighting Illini, was relieved of his duties down in Champaign. So he is on the market. We'll get an opportunity to talk about that. And very, very disappointing news and sad news in the basketball world and the University of Illinois family. And I love this guy. He was a man's man, and he's a fixture as far as Chicago basketball is concerned, the state of Illinois basketball is concerned, and of course the University of Illinois. And unfortunately, and I don't know the cause of death, but Jimmy Collins, former assistant coach for the Fighting Illini back in the heyday when you talk about the '89 Flying Illini, and of course the UIC Flames head coach with that program, he passed away at the age of 70, was it 73?
74. He had
74 years old.
Had a heart problem, but I don't think they listed the cause of death.
So we'll hopefully get an opportunity to reflect a little bit about Jimmy Collins. I thought he was just a fantastic human being. I thought he was an incredible basketball mind, and he was the one that resurrected. He was the one that put Illinois basketball more or less back on the map as far as the state of Illinois is concerned. And we talk about the national ranks. And again, I mentioned the Flying Illini back in '89, of course, with Kenny Battle and Kendall Gill and Stephen Bartle and Lowell Hamilton. Those guys, that was Andre Battle. They were a fantastic basketball team. And it was a credit to Jimmy Collins for the simple fact that they were Illinois homegrown athletes who played on the high school level. He was able to convince and recruit them and get them to come to the University of Illinois. And more or less the rest is history. But may he rest in peace, and condolences go out to his beautiful family. And he was just a blessing as far as the state of Illinois is concerned, as far as the University of Illinois is concerned, and as far as the game of basketball in the public league. Jimmy Collins made a positive, a heck of an impact here in the Chicagoland area and the state and across the nation.
He was a great recruiter. He brought in Nick Anderson, Kendall Gill, Lowell Hamilton, and Marcus Liberty all they were on the 88-89 Illini team, and with UIC, they made the NCAA 3 times and NIT once. Pretty good record.
Yeah, a very good record. And I got to say this, if you've been listening to the show over the past few weeks, definitely this season, you know that I get on my soapbox and I get on my rant, and it's usually aimed toward the Bears because, during a 6-game losing streak, a 6-game losing skid, they give you reason and they give you cause to or at least give it to me, for me to get on the soapbox and really, fire at them and fire out at them. I'm happy that they got the 36-7 victory over the Texans, but there's we talked about smoke and mirrors when they were 5-1. We still got some work to do. There's no question about it. But as far as getting on my soapbox is concerned, I appreciate the University of Illinois Chicago, the Flames, giving Jimmy Collins an opportunity to become the head coach over there. And he brought some fire to that program as well, and never met up to the standards as far as the University of Illinois is concerned. He actually deserved to become head coach down in Champaign.
They picked Lon Kruger instead.
Yeah, that was a disservice, in my opinion, to Jimmy Collins. He should have been the next head coach, replacing Lou Henson down at the University of Illinois as a men's head basketball coach. The public league coaches and Landon Sonny Cox, you know who he is. I think he's no longer with us as well. May he rest in peace. But Chicago, the University of Illinois had a pipeline to the south side, to the city of Chicago as far as public league players were concerned. When the University of Illinois administration, athletic department did not give Jimmy Collins that head coaching job, all bets were off. All bets were off. Had they had done the honorable thing, the correct thing, the wise thing, in my opinion, and given that man that head coaching duties, guaranteed, ladies and gentlemen, guaranteed, you heard it here on the Rewind Sports 60 WCPT 820 AM, the University of Illinois basketball program, and I know what D. Brown and Darren Williams and those guys did in what, at 05, 06, or whatever the case may be, I know what they were able to accomplish. But had they given Jimmy Collins that head coaching position as the men's basketball coach, the program, it would not have missed a beat. I guarantee you, in my opinion, I guarantee you, the University of Illinois down in Champaign, head coach Jimmy Collins, they would have won definitely one national championship, if not multiple.
Well, for no other reason, he brought Deion Thomas. He recruited him to Illinois, and so that was a real feather in his cap. So that alone should have been a factor. But of course, the Deion Thomas, that's also there was some controversy.
Oh yeah, there was some controversies, and that's why I get on my soapbox, because it pisses me off. And again, I have to get on my soapbox, but it pisses me off, and I guarantee you, the alumni for the University of Illinois, the fan base, they were irate when this whole thing went down between Bruce Pearl, who was at the time an assistant at Iowa, and Jimmy Collins. They were trying to get Deion Thomas to come and play at their respective universities. There were some recordings and some alleged violations or whatever. At the end of the day, Jimmy Collins more or less was relieved of his duties down at the University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana, and we know the frickin' Bruce Pearl, he's I normally don't do this, and I normally don't go down this road, but as far as the Fighting Illini fan base, the whole athletic community, they look at Bruce Pearl as being the scum of the earth.
Yeah.
The scum of the earth. And he's gone on to have success in other areas, in other programs.
Right. And I mean, he's even had some negative experiences at places like Tennessee along the way.
Yes. He is the scum of the earth. He is the scum of the earth. And the health conditions that Jimmy Collins, in my opinion, succumbed to during that, it was a very stressful situation. I do believe he may have suffered, if not not a massive heart attack, but I think he suffered a mild heart attack during that time because of the stress levels that he was enduring based on all that surrounded the whole situation. And to see Bruce Pearl more or less get rewarded for his snake, his devious, his pathetic actions is just a disservice to the man. It just pisses me off, and it pisses a lot of the University of Illinois fan base off, whether you're current or the past, and you know the story. It pisses you off because this jerk, Bruce Pearl, the jerk, goes on and has success in other programs, and Jimmy Collins, he never rebounded from that.
You're right. I mean, as it turns out, Pearl went to the Final Four in 2019. Yeah,
Man.
So with Auburn.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm speaking for a lot of the Fighting Illini fans. The he's just a scumbag. He is. He's a scumbag. And I usually don't throw names and titles and things of that around because I understand the world of sports and I understand, you got to do what you got to do. This guy, Bruce Pearl, is a scumbag. He's the worst of the worst, in my opinion. And he gets rewarded. It's not like he's not like he's a Lou Henson, right? Not like he's a Dean Smith. Not like he's a Mike Krzyzewski. He's none of that. None of that. Yet and still, these programs, these presidents, these chancellors, they give him a job. And they put him in charge of your 18, 19, 20-year-old kid. And you think he's the type of leader I swear to you, I would never let my kid play for that type of guy. Are you kidding me?
It's amazing. I mean, even
a bum.
Yeah. There's so many of the college basketball coaches that have had so much success, even like Rick Pitino and others, that have had so many things that have happened to them along the way that tarnish them. And I guess it's just like a business, and they do what they do, but it's crazy. Yeah,
Rick Pitino, I understand he's not. But let me tell you something. This guy Bruce Pearl is in a class of his own. He's in a class of his own. Rick Pitino. Hey, listen. I understand. Programs happen. You're trying to recruit. You're trying to do whatever you can. If you got the girls coming in and the recruits coming in, and you say, "Hey, go on over there and hey, have a good time," I get it. It happens. I understand that. Right. But for this guy Bruce Pearl. Yeah. To pretty much, he ruined this guy's career.
Yeah, I mean, it was alleged that they were giving cars and money to the kids. I think that was part of it.
He coerced Deion Thomas to try to spill the beans on Jimmy Collins during his phone conversation, where he had on wiretap more or less. He recorded the phone conversation, and then he puts it out there, and it's like, hey, wait a minute. Wait, I understand the gloves are off when you talk about recruiting. It's a tough-ass business.
Yeah.
Being a head coach on the collegiate level in a major program, it's very, very difficult. It's very, very competitive. And that's one reason I think Lovie Smith is out as the head football coach, is because Lovie Smith comes from the National Football League. I don't think that Lovie Smith was built for recruiting and sitting in living rooms talking to a 17-year-old kid and his parents saying, hey, would you come down to the University of Illinois to play? I don't think Lovie was cut out for that.
Yeah, but I mean, this year he had his recruits, the ones that in his fifth year, I believe. So these were his guys, and he really was making some strides. They had that winning streak up until they went to Iowa, but it didn't continue, and now he's gone.
What do you think happened with the Lovie Smith whole ordeal?
You mean,
as far as cause, when he took the job 5 years ago, I thought, wow, I was kind of nervous for the other coaches in the Big Ten, because I'm like, well, Lovie, he's got a pipeline, he's got some coaches, he brought some of his coaching staff from the Buccaneers, he had some that with the Bears, and he brought them down to Champaign, and I'm thinking, if I'm a 16, 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid, and Lovie Smith comes in and, with his resume, I think it's a drop in the bucket. I'm going to play for this guy. But whatever the case may be, it never transferred or translated over to the playing field. What do you think happened in that whole situation?
Well, I mean, obviously he'd been being a pro coach, since about 2004. But I guess he was an NFL assistant coach before that. So the college experience was way back in the 90s, where he was an assistant in various places, including the Ohio State University.
He was a defensive back coach with the Buckeyes back in 95. Yeah.
So I agree with you that it didn't seem like a good fit for him to be doing the recruiting, but I don't know, as the head coach, maybe you can assign those duties to somebody too. But I was surprised when he took the job originally, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. So, but again, the Illini have not had that much success. His overall record was 17-39, mm-hmm. So not that great. But his best year, he was 6-7 and 29 last year. So it looked like they were making progress, and now they're 2-5 in the shortened season. So he's out.
Yeah, he's 10-33 in the Big Ten in 5 seasons for the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, and I certainly believe that Lovie Smith will land on his feet. He's almost some people will say a genius as far as football knowledge is concerned. It just depends on the culture, the environment, the surroundings. And the program. I just don't think that Lovie Smith is cut out to be a coach on a collegiate level. And I understand his mindset was to develop these young kids into leaders and young men, which that's respectable and honorable.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, especially the money that the University of Illinois threw at Lovie Smith, they want some winners.
Yeah.
And they just built a new facility for him, the Lovie Smith facility down there. On campus. So he will be remembered. There's no question about it. But I just don't think you're right. I was kind of surprised with Lovie.
He got $21 million for 6 years, but the story goes that within 2 days they sold 2,000 more season tickets and 400 new student tickets. So there was a lot of enthusiasm over his hiring.
Yeah. So Lovie Smith. Some people believe that Lovie Smith should become, and we're going to get on Bruce Pearl to pick his brain and about this Bears victory, 36-7.
I don't think you
Bruce Heron. Yeah. See that. Oh man.
It's on your mind.
Yeah, he's on my mind. We're going to get Bruce Heron on. Thank you for the correction. Bruce Heron will be on with us. If I had Bruce Pearl on.
I don't think he wants to come on.
Yeah, if I had Bruce Pearl on the hotline, boy, it certainly would be hot. Jerry Riles along with the marvelous one, Dan Marver, but we'll get a chance to talk with Bruce Heron about the future of Lovie Smith. Some speculate that the Bears would be smart. The Bears would be smart to at least talk to Lovie in the hopes of trying to bring him on board as an advisor. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a good idea. I think he might want to be a coach still, though.
Mm-hmm.
He's a young man. He's only 62. So
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah. So he might want to be a head man. And you know how it goes in the NFL. There's always a bit of a revolving door. So he might have an opportunity. I mean, right now there could be an opportunity with Houston, among others. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know what? Yeah, the Houston Texans, they certainly are looking for someone not only on the sidelines, and Romeo Crennel, he was thrust into that position. Midway through the season. Of course, the Texans got rid of their general manager as well, so they're certainly looking for some front office help. And, who knows? Some people speculate that Lovey will take some time off to gather himself, spend a little time with family, and then get back out there. But whatever the case may be, Lovey Smith's services could be used in the National Football League again.
I mean, he's originally from Texas.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, those highlights to open up the show, courtesy of CBS. That was Kevin Harlan and Trent Green on the call there. And, of course, there were touchdowns by David Montgomery to start the game off for your Chicago Bears. An 80-yard run.
That was more than they average in a game usually.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get a chance to talk about the numbers as well. But Coach Matt Nagy, who was beside himself, talks about today's win. He said,
our players and coaches for being able to be resilient and focus in, lock in as to where we're at. I thought in pregame I had a sense of the vibe and the energy of where we were. It felt good for those guys. I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but they proved it. All three phases played together. This is the first time all year that we've had that. I can go into all the stuff offensively. I'm sure you guys will ask offense, defense, special teams, but all in all, I thought the first half was really good. We talked about finishing in the second half. I thought our offense was very efficient in the first half. We got touchdowns when we needed to. It started obviously was big today for our offense, defense, and then the other thing too was the selflessness of our wide receivers blocking, on the bubble screens and the different throws that we had. Defensively, I thought we swarmed them. We had 6 sacks. You felt that. And then special teams wise, we had great field position. We had the turnover, and then Cairo's been kicking really well. So, it feels good for us to have this. We're going to enjoy it, but then we're also going to reset and refocus for next week.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was efficient again. Like I said, I just went out there today and took what the defense gave us. They tried to show some different looks and mixed up some man and zone, but I just wanted to find the underneath completions and let these skill players just go to work with the ball in their hands, make them tackle all our ball carriers. And we had some good stuff in the run game that definitely helped us in the pass game. And for me, it just allowed me to find completions, take us down the field. And it was really good that we finished in the end zone. So we just want to keep finishing with touchdowns and keep continuing to get better. I thought we could have locked in a little more of the second half and really finished some more drives off with touchdowns instead of field goals. But I think that's something we can build off of this week. But the way we're working in practice right now, our mindset of these guys, just the way they're coming to work, they deserve this win today, so I'm really happy for them.
We're happy for you as well. The Bears knock off the Houston Texans by a final score of 36-7 over at Soldier Field on the lakefront here in Chicago to improve their record to 6-7. They end that 6-game skid. The Texans, the dismal Texans, that was a bad football team. They fall to 4-9, and Deshaun Watson, God bless him, he tried to do any and everything he could, but unfortunately the Bears just overpowered them, outmanned them, and outcoached them, to be honest with you. The Bears, congratulations, they improve, and we'll see what happens next week when they go on the road to take on the Minnesota Vikings. But we'd love to get the insight there. Every week, ladies and gentlemen, you get an opportunity to hear from this man. He is the best in the business, and he is on the program, the Rewind Sports 60, WCPT 820 AM, former Bear outside linebacker, number 51. He's number 1 in our hearts. He's on our TR60 hotline. Welcome back, Bruce. How are you? Bruce Herron's on our TR60 hotline. What's up, man?
Man, I'm doing good. Doing good. Had a great day today.
You played great.
One of my best friends today turned 60.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
You guys may know him. We call him the Colonel. You guys may know him as Richard Dent.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually reached out to Richard's, one of his buddies, to see if we can get him on, but I hadn't heard back from him. But happy birthday to the Colonel, Richard Dent. That's fantastic.
Oh, man. I tell you, we were out today, watched the Bears game out at Top Golf in Schaumburg. celebrate Richard's birthday. Myself, Otis Wilson, Jim Osborne. You guys remember him?
Yeah.
And Richard and his wife and his kids. And so we had a great time, man. Hitting golf balls, watching the game, having a couple of cups of Kool-Aid. Yeah. But we had a good time, man. We had a good time. We had a great conversation watching the Bears. I tell you what, man, they actually look better today than they ever have all season long.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, especially after that Pittsburgh performance last week, they came out and responded well. It was real pleasing to see them play today.
Yeah, it was very pleasing, and this was probably the best performance that Mitchell Trubisky had as a Chicago Bear. Definitely this season, no question about it, but probably as a Chicago Bears. Bruce, his number is 24 of 33, 267 yards with an 8.1 average, 3 touchdowns, of course. He was sacked 3 times for a loss of 26 yards. His rating, QB rating, it's probably the highest it's ever been, Marvelous. Yeah. 126.7. So congratulations to Mitchell Trubisky on a complete game, more or less. He didn't throw any interceptions, so that was good. But I think also congratulations, Bruce, to the coaching staff, in particular Bill Lazor, who I believe is still calling the plays for the Bears. The plays that were drawn up and called for Mitchell Trubisky to execute were conservative. There was no question about it. And he just basically had to follow directions and hit the open man in the flats. Nothing real deep, nothing real, serious across the middle. He just flared it out. He hit a, nice 5, 7, 10-yard dink and dunk, and the Bears managed the clock. They moved the ball down the field. He was 8-8 on that touchdown drive to Jimmy Graham in the end zone. So congratulations to Mitchell Trubisky, but also to the coaching staff for calling a very well football game for this young quarterback to get some confidence and the Bears to get a victory.
Absolutely. One of the things I was happy to see is the Bears defense, Pagano, putting some pressure on the quarterback, and that was just pleasing to see, man. I mean, this soft zone they've been playing with receivers running into open areas and just sitting down, and quarterback just playing catch with them, moving the ball up and down the field on our defense. It's just I was sick and tired of seeing that today. They brought pressure today. I was happy to see the outcome of that. So.
Hey, how you doing there, Bruce? This is Dan.
Dan.
Last week we were ready to burn the Lake Forest building down, so this is quite a turnaround, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I tell you, that's one reason why I say, you know what? Let's just take a deep breath. It was a terrible day. It was a terrible day at the office last week. They just didn't even show up, man. And let's just calm down and let's see what happens. And today they came out and responded well. So it was a really good day.
Yeah,
really good day.
Yeah. Hey, Bruce. I mean, you've been through some ups and some downs playing for the Chicago Bears over the time that you spent, and of course in the National Football League. You've seen it. Was this a game that the Bears collectively needed because of the 6-game losing skid and with the woes that the Texans are currently facing right now? Deshaun Watson has been struggling, although he put the team on his back. He just doesn't. And let's keep in mind that the Houston Texans didn't have all their major firepower on this football team. So Deshaun Watson pretty much had to put this team on his back and try to do something. Unfortunately, he fell short. Was this a game that the Bears, in your opinion, needed, again, to build the confidence of Mitchell Trubisky, but to build the confidence of the overall team to get the monkey off the back, so to speak, and move forward to try to build from there?
Yeah, you know what? It was a game that they needed. I mean, they really stunk up the place last week, and they needed a game they need to play like they played today in order to put that in the rearview mirror, because they played so bad last week, both offensively and defensively and special teams, that they needed a game like today, man, just to get that bad taste out of everybody's mouth and get people focused on them being a positive a positive force in the city. I couldn't have. I was actually shocked. I mean, the guys and I, we were at Top Golf the day before the game started, and we were talking about and making jokes about the Bears and how many points they were going to give up and all that. But to see them come out, man, playing that first half, I tell you, man, it was something special. It really was something special. So,
yeah. It was a good day today as far as the Bears are concerned, and it was good to see, because I don't know if this town could have taken another loss, especially to the Houston Texans. But the one thing that Matt Nagy mentioned during his post-game comments after the victory, 36-7, he said that this team is starting to create an identity, and that's not something that we've been looking for all season long. Actually, for the past 2 seasons, we've been looking for an identity from this team, and Matt Nagy said we finally are starting to turn the corner and create an identity for this football team. And he mentioned the fact that the run game, which we can talk about David Montgomery. He still only had 11 touches for over 100 yards rushing. So congratulations to him. But 80 of those yards came on the first play for the Chicago Bears. Right. But Nagy also talked about the pass protection. He talked about executing. And he talked about Mitchell Trubisky making good decisions. With this victory, did you notice an identity starting to rise up for this Bears football team?
I'm not too keen on when coaches start talking about we've gotten to the point where we're developing an identity. You look at what have we got? 3 games left in the season. Yep. 3 games left in the season. Mm-hmm. And 4 games, what happened to the previous 10, 11, 12 games? Right. I mean, there were major opportunities to create an identity, and we didn't do it. Today, I just think that they played so bad last week that I really think that both offense and defense and even special teams, I think that the whole team was pretty much embarrassed, and they knew that they were a better team than they showed last week. They're actually a better team than they've showed all season. But today, they came out. It seemed like they came out really focused. Mm-hmm. They came out with a game plan. They executed the game plan. Pieces fell in place. They took advantage of opportunities to make first downs, to score. They took advantage of opportunities to on a defensive side to prevent first downs, and they got turnovers. I mean, everything. The ball bounced their way today, and I just think that rather than an identity, I think they were more focused today and ready. It seemed like they were ready to play.
Even the offensive line did a decent job.
They did a damn good job, man. Really damn good job. So. It was a pleasing game, a very pleasing game.
No, it was very good. But here's the thing that scares me, Bruce, and you played with the greatest, and it's not just my opinion. You played with the greatest football player that ever laced them up, and the great number 34, Walter Payton, may rest in peace. But in the black and blue division, and playing in Chicago, and today is what, December 13th?
14th.
14th?
14th.
Everybody knows that in the middle part of December, in the National Football League, in the black and blue division, you're running the football. Because the weather off the lakefront is, it was like 35 degrees, 36 degrees earlier today. The weather off the lakefront it's brutal in December. And that's when you start to pound it and you start to grind it. And those big boys up front, they get down in that dirt and they start knocking some heads off.
That's right.
But this is what is confusing and scary to me, and especially when Matt Nagy talks about identity. You run the freaking football in the National Football League in the month of December when you're playing in Chicago. David Montgomery, albeit the 80 yards, God bless him, and he had the breakaway speed, so to speak, to get 80 yards down the field for the Bears' first score, but he only had 11 touches for 113 yards. How can you give your running back 11 touches who plays for the Chicago Bears in the month of December, only 11 touches? That's what's scary to me, man. That scares me.
Yeah, I mean, he broke that first run for 80 yards, and then after that, he only touched the ball 10 more times.
Right.
That's crazy. That doesn't make sense. Run that kid, man. Let him run. Let him run.
Yeah.
God, dog. I don't know, but you know what? I was just happy. I was happy that's a piece of the game today that is puzzling. But at the end of the day, I don't want to pick and choose and find fault in a big win like today. It's such a feel good story
Mm-hmm.
to see them to go out and execute and win a game. Yeah, I mean, there's some things they could have done better, like giving Montgomery the ball more often than they did. But at the end of the day, they won the game. And that's the important piece.
Yeah, it is very important, no question about it. But what I'm afraid of, Bruce, is the fact that when the Bears are 5-1, when they were 5-2, and they were 5-3, many of us around the city said it was smoke and mirrors. And you remember when Nick Foles said, "Hey, listen, do you guys want to win ugly if you want to win pretty?" And they were, to me, they were selling the fan base, a raw bill of goods by saying, "Hey, you know what? We're doing okay." I don't want to go down that path again, and that's why I bring up the running game, because you got Minnesota, and you know who they got running the rock for them. Dalvin Cook.
Oh, yeah.
That guy's a beast. They know what to do. They say, we got a guy that can run the rock. Let's give him the rock and let him run. So I'm not bringing it up to be a downer as far as, what the Bears were able to accomplish today. And again, kudos to them with the 37-7 victory, 36-7 victory ending that skid. But I'm looking forward, and I don't, after listening to Matt Nagy and Mitchell Trubisky talk after this game, I know the Bears, and they should think this way, that their playoffs hope are still there. I personally, Bruce, and you help me out with this, I personally don't think it's a realistic goal, because, again, I don't think that they're going to beat Minnesota when they go up to the Vikings next week to play them. Jacksonville on the road, to me, it's a toss-up. They might win Green Bay if Green Bay gets a victory and they wrap up home field advantage. They may let their guys rest and be a throwaway game. I don't know about that one, but that's what scares me about the win with this team today, is the fact that they may truly believe that, hey, we're still in the, and they are in the hunt.
Yeah, well, if they get that 7th seed, they're likely going to play Green Bay, New Orleans, or the Rams. So I don't know if that's going to be such a great thing either.
Yeah, but my beautiful wife Lisa asked me, are the Bears a playoff team? And I said, no, they're not a playoff team, and that's what scares me, Bruce. What do you think?
Yeah. You know what? I would love to see them win out, but they've got their 2 last games, man. They've got, 2 of the 3 last games. They've got Minnesota and Green Bay, and both of those teams have never been a chalk up win for the Bears. I mean, they have to claw and scratch for every inch they get. It going against Green Bay in that last game of the season. That's going to be a tall order. It's not that they can't do it. They just haven't shown all season long that they can win games like that. They've got the talent to do it. But, as far as I'm concerned, and quiet as kept, I don't think they've got the coaching to do it. And that's the scary part to me. That's just what they've shown. What they've shown is they've been outcoached all season long. And but today, I'm telling you, man, that defensively they came out smoking, man. Came out smoking, and then not only just came out and started the game smoking, they kept it going. they kept it going the whole game, and that's something we really haven't seen all season long.
That's
even
exactly
in the
right.
5 games that they won previous to today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Guys, today they had ideal December field conditions at Soldier Field. I don't know if they'll have ideal conditions in January 3rd against the Packers, so that could be a factor
Right.
too.
January 3rd or January 2nd. So either way.
Yeah.
Right. Again, and here's the deal. If the Bears win another game, I don't see any changes, whether it's in the coaching staff or in the front office. I don't see any changes at the end of the season. And, of course, many fans were calling for that after last week's debacle and, of course, the embarrassing loss against the Packers on national television. Back-to-back weeks, it was just horrendous as far as Bear fans were concerned. But if they win another football game, I don't see any type of changes. And it appears to me that they'll stay in status quo and business as usual. What is your perception or your forecast as far as this team is concerned? If they win another game, how do they move forward during the offseason from what you can witness?
Well, you know what? I really don't anticipate them making a change at the head coaching position. But I tell you, from where I sit, I do think that they need to address the defensive coordinator position, and possibly bring in an offense coordinator as well.
Really?
But I really don't see them getting rid of Nagy at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that happening.
But do you see? Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say that I do think that they really have to address the defensive coordinator position, because that's something that is, with all the talent they have on that defense, they should be in the top 5. I mean, every week they should be in the top 5. And those guys for some reason they have not been playing like they're capable of playing.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this question. 2 questions real quick, Bruce. Bruce Herron on our TR60 hotline, former Bear outside linebacker. 2 questions here. Does Matt Nagy once again take over the play calling duties for this Bears team in 2021? And do you think they should at least place a phone call to Lovie Smith, who was let go by the University of Illinois, the football program, this weekend, as their head coach with a disappointing record of 17-39 in 5 seasons? Do you think that Nagy continues to call plays next season? And should the Bears pick up the phone and call Lovie Smith and ask him, would he become an advisor for them to help work out some things? Because he's a defensive-minded genius, some would say, but he's a defensive-minded guru, and he might be able to lend some support as far as some decisions being made in the front office.
You know what? I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know what the Bears are going to do. This is all going to be on George McCaskey.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you, I think rather than bringing Lovie in as some kind of evaluator of talent and all that, I would love to see them bring Lovie in as a defense coordinator.
Mm.
Lovie has a way of getting guys to perform, man. Guys love Lovie. They put their lives on the line for him. They play their hearts out for him. He just has a way of getting guys to play their asses off. And that Lovie's always been that way. It's too bad. It's too bad that the new general manager came in when Lovie's last year, and after going 10-6, they let him go.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. The man had too much success to be let go after going 10-6.
Yeah. So do you think Nagy continues to call plays moving forward after this season if they win another game and he stays pat?
I don't know, but I hope that he understands that being the head coach. I mean, some head coaches are our head coach and offense coordinators or defense coordinators. But you know what? A head coach has got a lot of responsibility for the entire team, not just an offense or defense or special teams. You're responsible for all of it. You know, hire the best people you can hire, and let them do their job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let them do their job.
If possible, I think Lovey would probably want the head job again somewhere, you know, given a choice.
Yeah, but you know what? Lovey doesn't have that. You know, he doesn't have that kind of selfish pride where, you know, he sees an opportunity to get back into coaching in the NFL, and the Bears come call him and say, "Hey, Lovey, you know what? We'd like you to throw your hat in the ring as defense coordinator. You know, we'd like you to come in and talk to us."
Yeah.
And I think that he would do that.
I think it would be smart for the girls, at least. Did I say girls?
Yeah.
I think it would be smart enough for the girl. I'm sorry. I'm looking at Pam Oliver here. So I know. I'm looking at Pam Oliver. I'm sorry, Jalen hurt. But I think it'll be smart enough for the Bears to at least pick up the phone and call Lovey to see if he has some interest. Because I think if they took a page out of Jerry Reinsdorf's book regarding Tony La Russa, I know Sox fans don't want to hear it, but I think if they took a page out of his notebook and said, "Hey, you know what, Lovey, we did you a disservice. You went 10-6, but we fired you. We know what you mean to this franchise. We know what you mean to the players and what you've been able to do with your tenure here and your extensive resume. We'd love for you to at least come back and you know, entertain some thoughts that we're having." I think the Bears should at least try to do that.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that they will, but it would be nice if they did.
Yeah.
It really would be nice if they did.
Yeah.
I think it would be to the Bears' advantage to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not so sure that they will do that.
Right. The Bears are who we thought they were. Any last thoughts?
No, man. I just you know, I'm happy. I'm really happy about today. It was a great day to be a Chicago Bear and a Chicago Bear fan. But next week we're right back in the saddle again, man. They got it. Hey, enjoy the game today, but hey, man, tomorrow after you watch the film, you know, all their attention should be on the Vikings, and it's not going to be easy to beat the Vikings.
No, it's not.
They lost today as well, but they can beat the Vikings. They can beat the Vikings. And you know what? I'm going to say right now. After the way I saw these guys play today, I'm not going to say that they're going to win next week, but I'm going to say that they have a great opportunity to win next week. If they can perform like they did today, get after it, get those ears back and go, they got a chance to do it.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Hey man, I got a bone to pick with you real quick before we say goodbye. You were at Top Golf in Schaumburg, just around the corner from my digs, and it was you, the Colonel, Richard Dent, Mama's Boy, Otis Wilson, and who else was there?
Jim Osborne, and you didn't number 68.
Dude, you didn't pick up the phone and say, "Hey Jerry, come on over here." You know what I'm gonna do for you now? You know what I'm gonna do for you? I'm calling up Darwin Hackney and telling him don't give him no more. Don't give him no more of that banana pudding, no more, because he left me out. He left me out cold.
Don't do me like that.
I gotta call Darwin and say, "Hey, no, he's gotta earn his. You gotta earn it. You gotta earn it back. You left me out cold. I love Top Golf, man."
Hey man. Henry texted me today, and I haven't been able to respond to his text. But the first thing I'm going to say tonight when I get off the phone with you, I'm going to text Henry. I say, "Henry, sit down to make them bananas."
No, hey, Henry gonna say, "How come you didn't call him too? He wanted to come over as well." Hey, Bruce Aaron, you the best, brother. We love you. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you next week. Hopefully the Bears will come away with the victor. Take care, brother.
AM820, I love you guys.
He's the best in the business, ladies and gentlemen. Bruce Aaron on our TR60 hotline. Any closing thoughts, Marvelous?
we'll see how they play. The Minnesota, they're tied in the 8th spot now at 6-7, so there's still playoff talk, so it should be interesting.
It certainly is. Hey, thank you so very much for tuning in. We'll see you on Comcast on Wednesday at 7 p.m., Channel 17, Channel 19, Channel 35. It's another edition of the fastest hour in sports conversation, a Rewind Sports 60. Thanks to the marvelous one. Thanks to our illustrious producer, Devin Tingle, and, of course, Lauren Cox, who will be in studio next week. Have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy the week, and we'll talk to you guys next Sunday. Go Bears! 36-7 victory over the Texans.